Hello and welcome to Philosophy 110 Ethics. My name is Stephen Everett and I will be your instructor for this course. This is a video for everyone in the course, for those who may have already taken online classes inside this D2L interface that the school uses, as well as for those who have never taken an online course before. This is a video for everyone. In it, we will talk through these various tabs, how to find things in the class, how the assignments work, all the relevant information for anyone taking this course. To get started, the first thing we can notice is this is your home page. When you log into the class, this is where you always start. And you'll notice that there's this updates window. Inside this window, throughout the semester, you will see updates. Those appear in the form of links, things that you could click on, and they would take you somewhere in the class. There'll be, for example, it'll say that you have a certain number of discussion posts that have not been read, or that you have a quiz that needs to be completed. What I would encourage people to do is use this updates that appear here as a reminder of, oh yeah, I have some things I need to do in the class, but then go find those things and do them using, say, the content and the assignments tabs, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Rather than, these are links, you could click on them. And it's really no problem if you click on the one that's related to discussions. It will take you to discussions in this class. But the one that talks about you have a quiz pending, historically, sometimes inside this D2L interface, if you click the thing saying you have a quiz pending, it will take you to a quiz. But if your other teachers are also using D2L with some of your other classes, it may very well be referring to a quiz that's in one of those classes. So you click the link, you think you're about to take your Philosophy 110 quiz, that's what you're prepared for, but then you end up over in an English or a math quiz that you weren't prepared for, and maybe you don't notice it until you've already agreed to take it, but then you weren't prepared for it, and then it has to be reset by your instructor, and it creates a lot of confusion for everybody involved. Whereas if you just treat the links that appear here as a reminder that I need to do a quiz, and then go find it through these other tabs inside the class that you see the link, you'll be perfectly fine all the time. So just to summarize that, use what appears in the updates window as a reminder that you have something you need to do inside your class. But go find and look for it, whatever the assignment happens to be, discussion or quiz or exam, inside content and assignments. That being said, so that's the updates window. Use it as just a reminder rather than a way to access your assignments. The next thing is this calendar inside D2L. This calendar can be helpful over here on the right side of the screen. It shows when various discussions open, when quizzes become available, when they close down. Like it'll say when a certain quiz, like there's quiz 1, the availability ends. And it tells you all these things. But historically with the class, students need more. You need more information than just what appears in the calendar to actually know what to do throughout the semester. So what I would encourage people to do, if the calendar inside D2L is helpful to you, by all means, it's accurate. You can use it, but it may not have everything you need. For those who need more, what I would encourage people to do is go to this first news post. Inside this welcome message, you'll see a document labeled the course schedule. This document right here. This is the schedule for the entire course. So what does it look like? If you click on this link, this is the document that opens. It's just 4 pages. It's the entire course laid out from left to right for every week, and it tells you when you gain access to everything and when you lose access to everything, essentially when everything for a given week opens up. That's the unlock date. And then when everything locks down or it is to be completed by, that is your lock date. And so it gives you that right here so that you know, like on midnight, this date, week one opens, and you can access everything in here. Yeah, and the assignments are open, so you can start to complete them. And then by this date is the final moment when everything over in the assignments needs to be completed. But it also tells you the date span of each week, when it begins, when it ends. It tells you a kind of brief topical thing, like this week is an intro to ethical inquiry. We'll talk a lot about that this week. And then it gives you a preview of what the discussion question. This is just the link inside the class that you can look for to find the discussion. There's a lot more description that goes along with this discussion, but this is what you're looking for. And you know, if you find a link with this and you click on it, it's going to take you to the discussion that's related to week one. As well as it gives you the readings and the videos that are associated with this week. Notice that there's these things with SE in parenthesis. That is the lecture material for the week. You always want to find those things every single week. You know, there's more than just that some weeks. There's very supporting videos. There's textbook reading some weeks. There's other things in the weeks, but of all the things you want to find is this lecture material marked with SE, which is my initials, and you want to find that stuff because it's giving you the overall big picture of what you need to be able to do the discussions, to be able to do the quizzes successfully. And so, that being said, that every week you'll definitely have the handout that goes along with the lecture video, but the school has had to clean out the servers that store videos for all the classes. So this isn't just happening in this class, but in many of your other classes, teachers that had videos stored in the school server are having to re-upload those videos every single week following this clean out of the server. And so if you click on a video link for lecture stuff and it comes up with a 404 error or something, let me know, because I'm re-uploading these things across multiple sections, and it could be that I miss a section. And sometimes this may be delayed a little bit, where it may be Monday, like middle of the day Monday or something, before this lecture video appears. If so, that's okay. There's always other things to read, look through each week. But definitely let me know if you click on a link to the video, which I'll show where that is in content, throughout this video. But just know that there is this uploading process that's going around in the back end of things. And sometimes these lecture videos, there may be a slight delay before they appear. But if you click on the link and it doesn't open, definitely let me know, because I'm the only person that's going to be able to fix that. And I'm doing my best to make it so it's always there when we arrive each week. But there can be technical difficulties. I mean, uploading videos, if people don't know this, uploading videos, there's a whole lot that can go wrong, and you not know it until, hours or so later. So I'm just letting people know that I am re-uploading all these lecture videos. They're already created. It's just a matter to put them back into the server. But that takes time. And if there's some technical stuff that happens along with that, it's okay. There'll be no penalty to anyone in the class for it. It just, there may be a delay sometimes, or an accident that I make sometimes doing it. But either way, I'll do my best so that doesn't cause any problems. But if it does, you can send me an email and I will get it fixed. Then finally, the assignments. Like for every week, there's a discussion assignment. And then there's descriptions of what each discussion is asking for. We'll see that in this video. But typically, the discussion has like two aspects to it. It has what's called an initial post, like there's a question for discussion every week. And then what you will do is you'll watch the material, read the material for the week in the front end of the week. And then by the middle of the week, normally around Wednesdays, it says 7 p.m. Wednesdays. If it takes a person until midnight Wednesday or even the early part of Thursday, that's okay. This is just your goal to always try to get what's known as an initial discussion post up on the discussion board by the middle of the week, Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. And there'll be a question. You'll provide your answer or answers to the question. Sometimes there's multiple questions with a discussion during a week. Then you're reasoning for your answers. Then you do that by the middle of each week. Then by the end of each week, there are replies to peers. That's the second part of the discussion assignment, meaning that after you make an initial discussion post, you'll be able to see what everybody else in the class has posted. You won't see anything until you've made your initial post. Then once you do, you can back out of the screen and go back in, and you'll see what other people have posted their initial post. You read them, and then you reply with helpful feedback to posts made by at least 2 other people in the class. You can reply to more than 2 people, but 2 is the minimum of peer replies needed to receive full credit for the discussion. And once you do this a few times, it starts to make sense. It becomes a habit. It's no worries after a certain period of time of doing it. And there's descriptions of what these entail, in the syllabus, and we talk about it in this video more. But then also by the end of most weeks, there is a quiz. There's not a quiz during the week that the midterm's in play, and there may not be a quiz like later after that at one point in the semester, but just assume that every week you have a quiz and a discussion due, and you'll be safe. And then if you open a week and it says no quiz, hey, that's good. You don't have to take a quiz that week. But the assumption is always safe that there's definitely going to be a discussion every week. There won't be a quiz during the midterm week because you're taking the midterm exam. But there may be another quiz. It varies across classes. I teach a lot of versions of this class. But in the end, assume that you have a discussion and quiz due every week and be looking for it, and you'll be set, so you know what to look for. Then it goes through like week 2 in the schedule, and you'll see that there's a pattern. There's always discussion. There's always discussion and quiz assignments. And this week, there's also this attendance and identity verifications, which we'll talk about in this video. And then there's always this SE marked material, which is your lecture video. That's what we'd be doing in the classroom, in the physical classroom. But instead, given that this is a completely online class, it comes in the form of videos. And it goes through, this schedule also shows you when there's 3 extra credit opportunities throughout the semester. And it gives you the due date of those. They can be completed anytime ahead of when they're due. And it's extra credit. You don't have to do the extra credit, but it's there if you want to do it to get some extra points. There's also, it tells you when the midterm exam is due. It also includes the last extra credit as well as when the final exam is appearing. So this 4 pages gives you a condensed version. If you download and save or print out and have in your hand throughout the semester, nothing more than these 4 pages, I would encourage everybody to do at least that. It's fine to download more than this and print it out, but this is the one thing that you definitely need to be able to know when everything's happening. This is all, it fills in all the details that this particular calendar over here on the right-hand side of D2L just doesn't include. So that being said, the next thing on this homepage is the news feed. This news feed works similar to like social media posting, in that the most recent post is at the top, and if you scroll down, older posts or posts that were made ahead of the most recent, they're the older posts, they're underneath. And so whenever you log into the class, it's always good practice to look at the news feed and see if there's something new that you haven't read. Sometimes I always make a news post always be something that's relevant to everybody in the class. And sometimes that 1 or 2 of these may appear on the same day. And so you always want to not just read the top layer, but scroll down and see if there's one underneath it that you may not have seen that one either. So it's always a good practice to check that news feed. Speaking of which, let's look through the posts that have been made on it. And there's the welcome message, there's the class, my name, and it tells you how to get started in the class. Well, the very first thing is to watch this course information video. So you're doing that, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. The next thing is to read the syllabus and the course schedule. We've already glanced at the course schedule, described it. You can look more in detail at it after this video. And we will talk about the syllabus near the end of this video. But one may notice that there's this additional set of documents here. If you've taken other classes at the college, then you may be more familiar with these two documents than you are syllabus and course schedule. In the end, the relevant information, what you need for the class, is contained in both sets. I include both because historically in the class, students have tended to prefer this format of the syllabus and the course schedule. But it's totally fine if you prefer what you've seen in your other classes, the layout and the formatting of an instructional package course information sheet. By all means, you can use these two documents and be perfectly fine throughout the class, know what you need to do. Or you can use these two documents and you'll be perfectly fine. What I encourage people to do this week, just look through the two, pick either this set and use it throughout the semester, or pick this set and use it throughout the semester. Either's fine. Just pick whatever works for you. In this video, we're looking at these two. But you should check these out this week. See what you prefer. Either set will work to help you keep know what you need to do in the class. There is a textbook required for this class. And this is the Khan Exploring Ethics, the 6th edition. We do use many articles out of it throughout the semester, so you do need to purchase a copy of it. But only this textbook's all you need. Everything else is provided to you during the weeks with the lecture material and supporting videos. But you do need this textbook, but you don't need it today. That we start using it, this is by design. We start using it on the 3rd week of the class. This first week and second week, you don't need the textbook. You can do the discussions and the quizzes just by using the lecture material and the other supporting material provided. You don't have to have the textbook for week 1 nor for week 2, but you do need it by week 3. And that gives everybody time to secure a copy, maybe a used copy rather than a new one. And there are previous additions to it, but they don't include all the articles that are mentioned throughout this semester. So if you're with a 5th edition of it, you may not necessarily have every article that you're required to look at throughout this and read throughout the semester. So you may have most of them, but you may not have all of them. So that's just a decision, one can make. But this class is built around the 6th edition. So there's also, if you buy this book through the schools, the college bookstore, that sometimes it'll come up with this recommended materials, and that's just trying to sell you more stuff. You don't have to buy any of that. The textbook's all that's required for the course. The next thing is how to email me. Given that this is a 100% online course, we don't have any face-to-face meetings. You never have to go to campus for anything associated with this course. That means that our primary way of getting in touch with one another is email. There's my email address. It's this address and no other. I check it basically every day. And what will happen if you send me an email? Typically within 12 hours, you're going to receive a reply to me. If I'm open and looking at email and you send me an email right then, I'll reply right then, or within the next minute or two once I'm able to read your email and provide an answer to it. So I deal with email. I stay up to date with it. So normally if you send me an email at 8 in the morning, by 8 that night, you probably receive a reply. But give me up to 48 hours, which is 2 full days, just in case, especially during this first week, because as you'll see, I receive a lot of emails and it takes time to read them and reply to all of them. But so give me as during this week. After this week, not as many emails, but this week a lot of emails. So give me at least 2 days to get a reply back to you. I know that when a person sends me an email, they may need a reply as quick as I can get to it, and I try to do that. So, but if it's been over 2 days, 48 hours, and you haven't received a reply, then make sure, look back at your email, make sure you send it to the right email address first. But then also, if you know you did and I haven't replied, it's fine to send me the email again and say, hey, I sent you this. I don't know if you saw it or if it arrived, but here it is again. And so you send the email again. But do that after, give me 48 hours, because I will certainly be doing my best to always have email completely caught up that I have received within that period of time. And so, speaking of email, that moves us to the very first thing, which is attendance verification. This week, there's 3 parts to this attendance verification activity. The first part is just send me an email as soon as possible. Just as it describes the instructions is get out of D2L, go to your HTTC email or Gmail, Outlook, whatever external email you use is fine. I'm using HTTC, which is a version of Microsoft Outlook. It works fine. But whatever email that's reliable that you use is fine to use it. Send your email to this address. I will receive it and reply to it. In terms of this first attendance email, all you need to do is, hey, I'm in your ethics class. You can ask me any questions after you've watched this video. If you have any questions, or throughout the whole semester, let me know. But in terms of this thing, is just send me an email. And the purpose of this is so that we know we have a reliable way to contact each other throughout the semester. That I'll have your email. I can always reply to it if I need to get in touch with you. And I will reply to all of these very attendance verification emails. And you'll know that I have received it and that you can always reply back to me. If you just keep that email, you can always just reply back to it throughout the semester, and you know that pathway works. And so we need this just to be sure that you always know how to get in touch with me throughout the semester, and I know the same, and it's reliable. We know it works. So that's one of the reasons for this. Also, I use this to verify your attendance in the class this week and this week alone. You never have to send me an attendance style email after this first week. After this week, your attendance is tracked by completing discussions and quizzes. And I see that and update grades every week. So that's how your attendance is tracked after this week. But that's the first part of this, is just send me a quick email, hey, I'm in your ethics class, and do that by the end of this week. The next thing is you complete this week's discussion and quiz, which we'll talk more about those as we go through this video. But you just complete the discussion and quiz assignments for this week by the end of the week. And then you complete this identity verification. Well, what is that? This is a requirement from the school that anybody that's in a fully online class, that what you do is there's a link here. And I'll show you where this link is in another location in a second. But you click this link. The first thing you do, though, is you just take essentially a selfie holding a photo ID. It can be your school ID. It can be a license. It can be any kind of ID that's got a picture of you with your name and stuff on it, with you in the picture holding it. That's all this is. It's just a way that the school verifies for, their records, as well as some laws with financial aid, things like that. That's why this is a requirement. And it has to do with state and federal law more than, is one of the main reasons it's a requirement. But the idea is you just take a self picture holding your student ID, and once you have done that, you have the JPEG file or whatever file format your picture is, and then you go here, you click on this link, and it walks you through uploading it. This picture only exists just in this class. It's locked inside this situation. It never goes anywhere else. And this is not my requirement. This is a school's requirement. The same thing with attendance verification. This is something the school requires, not necessarily me. It's just what is necessary, for the class. So there's two different things. One is attendance verification includes everything. Sending me an email, doing this week's assignment, and doing the identity verification. That's all your stuff to do this week. And, look through you'll be looking through the lecture material to do these. And, by the time you've done all this stuff, you'll have a pretty good orientation to how this class kind of works. All right. So moving forward, we'll look through these tabs. I have some tabs up here that you won't have, but you will have tools, you'll have communications, you'll have assignments, you'll have content. So what is under tools? Well, if we click on it, you have all these tabs, but the two that you need the most or that are most useful to you at the very top, the attendance and the grades. That you can check your attendance every week and you can check your grades every week. How does this work? Well, when you do a quiz or an exam, your grade is automatically updated. You will know how many you got right, questions, how many you missed. You'll know that instant. After you've completed it and turned it in, you'll know. It'll grade it. But what about discussions? Well, discussions, I read through everything posted, all the initial posts, all the peer replies every week. That takes time to do. So your discussion grades, once a week is over, the way the class runs is it runs basically from midnight one Saturday to midnight the next Saturday. That's your 7 days for the week, midnight Saturday to the next midnight Saturday. And so that means you'll always have your discussion stuff, what you're going to do, what you've completed for it, done for a week by midnight Saturday. Well, normally I try to get all the grades updated by Sunday, Monday. But give me until Tuesday to get all those discussion grades updated, and you can check. Like after a week's over, we've gone through, say, week 1, it'll be midnight Saturday, the 18th of January. It'll be the final day of this week. Well, then give me until, say, Monday, Tuesday of that next few days, like 2-3 days after you've completed a weekly discussion in the next week that's in play. Give me 2 or 3 days and you can check your grades and you'll be able to see the grade for the discussion and what you made on the previous week's discussion. Also, attendance is updated at that same time. So I update attendance at the same time I update discussion grades. And so always by Tuesday in a week, you'll be able to basically see what your grade is. Sometimes it'll be quicker, Sunday, Monday, but always give me till Tuesday. That's about 3 days after a week is completed to have your discussion grades available so you can see them. You can look through these other tabs, but these are the two that matter the most to most people. We're using these two. We're not using some of this other stuff with Locker and all that. So, but these are two we absolutely use throughout the semester. The next tabs like communications, we're not using the email. This is email inside D2L. You don't want to try to email me this way, that it's not a reliable way. Just read the directions back there about how to email me, and it tells you to get out of D2L, which means don't use this email. Because this, sometimes I may not even receive your stuff if you try to email me through this. So you want to get out of D2L and go to your school email or your Gmail or Outlook or some external email. You don't want to try to email me through this tab. Now, news, you can see all the news posts throughout the semester at any time. You can do that, like if you scroll down to the bottom of news, it'll say show all post or show old post. You can see it that way and see the whole feed of news posts. But sometimes it's just more convenient if that's all you want to see. You can just go communications news and you can see all the posts. And there's various links that show up in these posts sometimes that you may say, hey, rather than going through all the class stuff to find it, I know there's a link in a news post, so just go news, see all of them, and go find it that way. So this can be helpful, but it's not necessary. I mean, you can do the news post without using this tab, and this email we don't use at all. So basically right now, the two things that matter the most is attendance and grades out of these tabs. Now, what we do use a lot of is the content and the assignments. So what are these tabs? Well, if you click on assignments, you get the drop-down menu. There's these 3 top layers. the discussions, Dropbox quizzes. Those are what's relevant to you. We're not using surveys, rubrics, all that stuff. We're using discussions, Dropbox quizzes. So what is this? Well, the very first thing is let's look at Dropbox. What's in Dropbox? Well, this is where you can upload your identity verification, where you take your self picture with the photo ID. Once you have that picture, you can click on this and it'll walk you through uploading it. Rather than using the link to it in the news feed, you can just go assignments, Dropbox, and then just click on this, and then you can upload your picture this way for identity verification. That's it. That's all that's under Dropbox. The next thing is quizzes. So what is this? Well, we can click on it. No problem. What it shows you, and it's like I said, I'm in the class from my side of it, so there's more buttons than on your side that you'll see. But in the end, this is the same. This quiz hopper with all the quizzes from week 1 all the way through. This is links to all the quizzes, as well as there's links to midterm exam in here, as well as links to the final exam. So every quiz that's throughout the semester and every exam that you have. And you can go when these dates appear, like this available on this day is the same as in the course schedule. It says the unlock date. This is the unlock date, the available. And the until, this is the lock date. This is when it becomes available, meaning this link becomes active. You see how it underlines when this date appears. You've read through the material and then watch the lecture videos. And when you're ready to take quiz 1, you just click on this link and it'll walk you through the process of going in. It's going to ask you a couple times, are you really ready to take this quiz? Yes. Well, are you sure? Yes. And I mean, it does that to give you plenty of chances to back out before you go in. It's kind of interesting how it does that. I mean, that's the way it's worked many semesters. But the idea is that you just do this quiz during the dates that appear here, between the time it becomes available until the time it locks down. And after this date, this link becomes inactive and you can't go back and do it. And so right now, this is before the semester begins. So all the quizzes are future quizzes. But what will happen as soon as one of these becomes available, there will be another box that appears here and it will say current quizzes. So if any time throughout the semester you're unsure what week are we in, you can always click assignments and quizzes, and then there'll be a box with current quiz, and just look at the number beside it. That's the week number. Quiz 1 is on week 1 material. Quiz 2 is on week 2 material. So whatever your current quiz number is, that's the week we're in the class. There's other ways to determine it with the course schedule, looking at the dates, but sometimes it's just, you just want to know, okay, what week are we in? All you have to do is assignments, quizzes, and then look in the current quizzes hopper, which it will appear, look just like future quizzes, and then it'll have the quiz and just look at the number, and that tells you the week that we're in throughout the semester. These quizzes, what are they like? Well, they're just multiple choice true false questions about the material covered during the week. That's all they are. And you complete them inside this D2L interface. The midterm exam, the final. Well, what happens with the midterm is the midterm covers the material up to the week that it appears in. And so you do that, and then after the midterm, you can kind of put that material to the back of your mind and just start focusing on the week 8 forward material up to the final. There's not a cumulative final exam in this class. It's that we go through the first half of the class, then you do the midterm exam. Then it's like we do a kind of mental reset, and then you go through the remaining weeks of the class, and the final exam is only on the weeks 8 through 15 material. And the midterm and the final, they're the exact same format as the quizzes. They're just bigger quizzes. So once you've taken the first quiz, second quiz, you're familiar with how quizzes works. All that's happening when you get to the midterm and final is there's just more questions. That's it. There's no format changing. There's nothing different. The same kind of true, false, multiple choice questions. So once you've done one, two, three quizzes, all you'd expect with the midterm and the final to just be more questions that cover all the weeks of material that we've encountered up to that point of the exam. And up to the midway point with the midterm, and then from the midway point to the end with the final. So that's how that works. You can access these quizzes though inside content, which we'll see. But this is just one easy way. If you've already done, say, the discussions for a week, you've already read all the material, which all that's located inside, the lecture stuff's in content. But say you've done all that stuff and you're just coming back at the end of the week, say, oh yeah, I need to do this week's quiz. It's very convenient to just come in, log into the class, click assignments, quizzes, and then just find the quiz, take it. And you don't have to go through multiple steps to find it. Also, so we've seen how quizzes work. What about discussions? When you click, all I did was click assignments, discussions, and then I clicked it. And what do we find in here? Well, every discussion area in the class is located under this discussions tab. Assignments, discussions takes you here. This is, if the first thing is you have it's a link, you click on it. That's how you're able to post to a discussion in the class. You just click the name of it. This is related to any questions you may have about the syllabus, about this video. And you may want to try to get a little faster feedback than email. This is really a special use case. Say that it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're wondering, where do I find this week's quiz? And you've watched the course information video, but you're still, you're like, where is that? If you had a question like that and it's 3 in the morning, the odds are I'm not checking email at 3 in the morning. But there may be other people in the class at 3 in the morning that not only know the answer to that question, they know how to tell you where a quiz is, and you may be able to post your question here. And if someone sees it and they're feeling kind and they know the answer, they may reply to you. That's really the unique use case of this any questions. There's a situation like late at night when, with email, you may think that you can't wait. So you want to try to get feedback right then from your peers in the class. And I will answer a question here if I see it, but that may be the next day if you've done it at 12 o'clock at night. So primarily though, if you have any questions about anything in the class, just send me an email. That's the most straightforward way to do it. I'll answer your questions, especially if it's to do with your personal information about your grades and things like that. Definitely send that email to me. Why? Because anything you post in these discussions, everybody in the class sees, is able to read it, able to reply to it. So things that shouldn't be mentioned in a public setting, that needs to go to me in email. But just any questions, just send me an email. This is a special use case. It's here, but most times people just send me an email. That's the most straightforward way. There's a place you can introduce yourself if you want to. It's voluntary. You don't have to. But if that's something you'd like to do, that's fine. You can. There's also this study forum. If you want to work with other people in the class to learn about the material, things like that, you can do this. Everybody's able to see what's posted here, able to reply to it. I don't do anything with this that unless I see that people have a question and they're trying to answer it, but not, making much progress with it, I may, reply to something in this, but this is overwhelmingly just for people in the class. Sometimes people do this, sometimes they don't. You can ask, does somebody want to do a study group right here? And then if they say yes, nobody's forced to do this. This is voluntary. Now, what is the required stuff? Well, here's week 1 discussion, the discussion for this week. How does it work? Well, every week there's a certain amount of questions associated with each week in terms of discussion. And what it's telling you right out of the gate is it says, as discussed in our approach to ethics. Well, right there, that's telling you you don't want to even remotely attempt this discussion until you've gone through the lecture material for week one. That this discussion is not going to make sense to you. You're not going to know what it's talking about until after you've looked through the lecture material. And so that's the first thing to know is that you might look through this and say, I don't know how to do this. Well, no, you won't know until you've looked through lecture material. So you always want to look at that first, then think about the discussion. It's fine to read through the discussion before you look at lecture material. Just kind of have this in your mind. You're like, hey, I know that I need to kind of be looking for things like this as I'm going through the lecture material. But the key to it is once you've looked through the lecture material, watched the lecture video, read through the handouts, that you'll be able to do the discussion. And so, well, what's happening in the discussion is that you have a scenario in this first week's discussion, and then you have three questions. And all you do is just answer the questions, but always include your reasons for whatever your answers are. Meaning that if you answer a question, just include reasons for it. Other sentences offered in support of whatever your answer is. And then you do that. You kind of look through that, figure out what your answers are. Then you click on the link. And when you click this link, it's going to give you the idea of starting a new thread or make a post. There'll be a button that says that. You click on it, a box will open on the screen that you can type your answers and reasons into, and then there will be a button that says post or submit. And you click that button and it posts it to the discussion board. That's all there is to it. You look through the description of it, you've looked at the lecture material, then you read this description, and then you just answer the questions. Sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 4 or 5. But if there's more questions, it's going to be shorter answers to them. You won't have to write as much on each question. There's not a set number of sentences associated with completing these things. You just write as much as it takes to answer the question and provide reasons for your answer. Some people write a lot, some people write a little, but as long as you're providing answers and reasons in the discussion, that's what matters. To do that again, once you've read this, you've looked, you've thought about the answers to the questions, you click this, you'll start a new thread or make a new post. You come up with a text box, you type in your answer, and then you turn it in, post, submit. Once you do that, you'll be able to see what everybody else has posted, what their answers are. Then, after that's happened, after you made your initial post, other people have made posts, that by the end of the week, you'll want to read what other people have posted and then reply to posts made by at least 2 other people in the class. You can reply to their replies if they make some comment and feedback, ask you a question, whatever, then you can reply to that and answer it. That counts as one of your replies. Or you can just provide people feedback. Now, what does it mean to do that? That's more than just, someone answers a question and you say, I agree. That's not sufficient to get credit as a peer reply. That if you do happen to agree with something a person said, explain, describe what you agree with and your reasons for agreeing with it. If you happen to disagree, you will disagree with some posts that people make throughout the semester. It's inevitable in an ethics class and in philosophy in general that disagreement happens. It's just part of what it is when people are dealing with these kind of topics. That's fine. You won't agree with everybody. Everybody won't agree with you. That's fine. Just know that up front. But the key to it all is you just provide someone with feedback that you yourself would like to receive that would be helpful. If you disagree with a person, point to the thing, the example, the claim they made, the evidence they provided, their reasoning, whatever it is, and just say, yes, this is where I disagree and here's why. Just do it in a respectful manner. That's fine. If you agree with them, tell them what reason or example or whatever they said you agree with specifically and why. That's all it takes to do a peer reply. Sometimes that may take 5 sentences, 3, may take 15, may take paragraphs. Depends on how much feedback you think's necessary to provide to help the person. The peer replies are intended to help people in the class because we don't have all the answers and all the knowledge to begin with. This is also how we practice argumentation, which there will be much more said about that in this week's Our Approach to Ethics. So I won't say much more about it now. But that's ultimately all the way. That's how discussions work. You look at the lecture material, come in here and read the descriptions, provide answers to the questions in your reasoning via clicking on this link, starting a new thread, typing in your answer, turn it in. Then after you do that, you can see what everybody else has posted. And how do you reply to someone? Well, when you click on their post, a reply button appears at the bottom. You click on it and a text box is going to show up that you can type in. It's a lot like replying in social media stuff. It's not the same, but it's more like the way that it used to be, say 4 or 5 years ago, than it is today, but it's still very similar. If you've ever made a comment on a YouTube video or any kind of feed on Facebook or anything, you'll be able to walk through it and figure it out. But if you have any questions, absolutely let me know, and I'll talk you through the process. So that's discussions. And there's many of them. There's one for every week. Like there's the week 2 discussion, and it has like 5 questions. And there's a description above all of this that describes what it is. And then sometimes it walks you through, how to compose your post. And this goes through all the way, throughout all the semester, all the discussions. So where are we? We were just under assignments discussions. Now, to content. This is the big tab. This is the one where if someone says, well, where are my lecture videos? What do I need to be watching? This is the answer. It's under content. So let's just say you want to find the stuff for this week, week 1 material. Where do I go? How do I do this? Well, let's start like you would start, from the home page. So, okay, I want to find my week 1 lecture material, the stuff I need to watch and read so I can do my assignments. So you're on the home page, just click content. And the first thing, if you've not clicked on anything in content, you're going to see the course overview. You can read that. But typically when you're looking for something in content, you click the content tab and you just train your eye to look to the left side, because this is the navigation to content, is all this in the light gray color on the left-hand side. So you click content, you scroll down and look to the left. And what's most relevant to you are these 3 modules or folders. That's really all these are there's like folders on your desktop. They just don't look like folders, but that's what they are. That means you click on them and they open up and you get to see what's inside of them. So there's 3 main folders. There is a Getting Started Course Information module, there's Course Contents, and there's Extra Credit. So let's look through these. So you go Extra Credit. If I click on this, what happens? Well, the middle of the screen changes. When you first go through this, go into content, the thing to keep in mind is that this in the center of the screen, D2L is going to stay wherever you left it inside content. So you have so if you stop and like say you go back to course home, you log out, and then say 3 days later, you come back in this class and click content. Well, if you stopped at extra credit's what's going to be here. Sometimes that's confusing. And say, if you want to just clear out the screen, say you're looking for something, but you don't want something to distract you over here, the easiest way to do this is you click Table of Contents and then just click Overview. And then you're back to 0. I mean, you may think, well, why does this matter? It will in the long run. I wouldn't show it to you if it didn't matter. You can always reset and clear this screen if it distracts you just by clicking Overview. But you always kind of want to hit Table of Contents, then Overview. Why? Because some of these have folders within folders. When we see Course Contents, this thing expands tremendously, this navigation bar. And so sometimes that gets very distracting. And so you need to just collapse it back down to these 3 top layer tabs. You can always collapse all the tabs by table of contents. Then you can essentially reset the screen back to 0 by clicking overview. And it clears everything out. So you can say, okay, now I just need to navigate these 3 to find what you're looking for. So let's just look at the first one, simple extra credit. You just click the tab. There's 3 extra credit opportunities. As I said, these are open now. In principle, you could do them today. But I would encourage people, give it a few weeks. The first extra credit, I'm not going to read this to everyone. You can read it yourself. But it's related to after this first week, after you finished week 1, you got everything you need to be able to do extra credit. You can do extra credit by the end of this, extra credit 1 by the end of this week if you want to. What is the upside of doing it? Well, 2 final grade points or 3. It depends. I weight it differently in some versions of this class. But either way, it's worth doing. It's 2 to 3 final grade points. They're added to your grade at the end of the semester. It's pretty straightforward to do. It's not hard to do that. It's an easy way to get some extra points. So if you make a few mistakes and errors on quizzes, say you miss a whole discussion or you make some mistakes on an exam, these will get added to your final grade. And it's just nice to have that buffer of points, but you don't have to do this. It's voluntary. Extra credit's not required. The next extra credit, 2 and 3, are the same task. It's just you pick a different argument and you analyze it. That's what all of this is about, this description. And then, and we'll talk more about it. You'll hear more about argumentation in this week's lecture video and throughout the whole semester. But the idea is you're doing the same thing. You're just picking a different passage to analyze. And it's a passage outside the class material. But then you just click on it. It behaves just like a discussion. When you click on this, you've done this stuff. And then you click on this and post what you've done. And then that's it. That's all there is to it. Extra credit 3 is the exact same task. It's just with a different argument that you're analyzing. So those 3 opportunities are there, but it is voluntary. You don't have to do them, but it's here and it's the lower tab of the 3 that you have. So now, remember, all we did is click content and we're just looking at this left side of the screen. The next tab is getting started course information module. This course content's the large one, so we're doing the easier ones first. The getting started course information module, we click on it. And immediately notice, before you notice what's going on this right side of the screen, see that it has expanded. You've got 3 sub-tabs. They're kind of indented over. And so you have course information, D2L how-tos, student services. Well, what is that corresponding to? Well, you've opened it up, so you're getting started course information. We'll look at the top of the screen in the middle. Getting started course information. So there's a correspondence. You clicked on this, you see it's a different color. It's a darker color than the background. That's the tab that you're active on. That's the one that's showing up in the middle of the screen. And so you have getting started course information. Well, there's getting started course information. Well, then the next thing says course information. Well, what is that? What's right here? There's course information. Well, if this is working the way it looks like it's working, this D2L how-tos should be under course information. Well, let's see if it is. Yep, there it is. D2L how-tos. Well, what about the next one? Student services. That should be under D2L how-tos. Let me scroll down. D2L how-tos, so there's student services. So that gives you a sense of these things when they expand, these tabs drop down like this. They're just on top of each other. You just have to scroll down to see them. That's the way it works. That's how the navigation of it works. And so what's in these things? Well, you have course information, D2L how-tos, student services. Let's take a quick look at these. You can look back through all these after the video. You can click on all of it. You're not going to hurt anything. You can click on the stuff and see what happens. But there's a link to the course information video. This is what we're watching. You're watching it right now. There's a link to the syllabus. There's a link to the course schedule. There's also a link to net etiquette. Well, what is that? This is helpful for anyone that has not done an online course before. You've never posted to discussions. There's certain things that are just kind of nice to do for other people. Namely, it'll tell you that you don't want to make discussion posts in all capital letters. Why? Because it kind of distracts people. That we're accustomed to reading. They've actually done studies on this. It's interesting that they have. But people are accustomed to reading, at least in English, these capital letter and lowercase letters. They're accustomed to reading a complete sentence, not a bunch of abbreviations, but and using all capital letters because we don't see that often. It's not how our books are written. It's not what you really see on a lot of websites that have it. It distracts from just reading the sentences. So it's kind of a good etiquette when you're posting in a professional academic setting, which is what we're in, to just write in the way that people expect to see. Because what matters in discussions is not what your words look like, it's what you're saying. Well, going along with that, that means that you want to just pick, standard size, the default font, not make the letters enormous or make them so small, or to make them in like a fuchsia pink color. It's fine. That may be very pretty, but that can be very distracting and hard to read. For people not due to any difficulty seeing, it's just that we're not accustomed to seeing that stuff, especially in academic, technical, administrative, classroom settings. And so it's easier for everyone, especially in a class like this, where it's not what your words look like that matters, it's what you're saying, what your reasons are, and the answers you're providing. That's what really matters. The form, the outward appearance of it's not what matters, it's content. And so there's no reason to distract people unnecessarily. So the idea is when you write a discussion, you write in complete sentences, just use blue or black font, totally fine. It's what everybody's accustomed to seeing. And then what happens is the actual symbols fade into the background and people just read what you've said. And that's what you want. You want them to be able to read it. And net etiquette goes in, it talks about that stuff. It's useful to know that when you're taking a class like this or sending an email in a professional setting to a job or whatever. It's good to know those things. Sometimes you want to exceed or stand outside of what people expect. Sometimes you want to fall right in the middle of what's expected. And how you post and send emails tends to be where you just want it to kind of be where it doesn't distract. Now, distance learning policies, this applies to everyone in the class in any online setting. It's just the various policies. You can check those out. If there's any questions, that's that thing, this discussion we saw over there in the discussion list. Like I said, just send me an email with your questions. You can do this, but it's just better just to send me an email. Inside this, which actually looks like a folder, is the links to the instructional package course information sheet, which you could use these in lieu of using the course schedule and the syllabus, as I've already described. But also, there's another thing you can notice is that there's this symbol stuff. It's telling you what's going to happen when you click these links. Like if it says PDF document, you can click this document, you can download it to your computer, you can print it out. In terms of a link, this means it's going to take you, in this case, to a video. This is going to take you to the webpage of the school with IT and the distance learning people, and it's a website. Same thing here. You're going to go to a website. So link is telling you you're about to go to a website. It's going to open a new window to take you there, or a new tab. If you're using like Google Chrome as a browser, these links are going to open new tabs. And then whatever is going to appear in that new tab. Like if it's a video, it's going to take you to wherever the video is. So you already know before you click on these things kind of what to expect with the behavior on your screen. And discussion topics, hey, it's got two little talk bubbles. So if you're looking during a week and you're like, okay, well, where's my discussion? Just look for the talk bubbles. That kind of is just an easy way to get there quicker. Now, D2L how-tos, if you've not taken a class inside this graphical interface, this with all these buttons and all this stuff, then it's worthwhile to watch this video, and then there's a tip sheet. This is not just about this course, it's about any D2L course you would take anywhere, this school or any other school that uses D2L, and it's helpful. It can be. I mean, even if you've taken 2 or 3 online classes, to take a virtual tour can be very helpful too. But it's not relevant. I mean, it is relevant to this course. It is just not necessarily this course's material. We're doing essentially a virtual tour right now in this course information video you're watching. That's what we're doing. Student services. These are just some links to various things that the college provides. There are hundreds of others. These are just a few that the school always likes to appear inside online classes. I mean, there's a link to Tech Central, which is where you can get technology help. It's also where admission stuff is. There's a lot of things associated with that. There's services for distance learning student. Everybody in here can avail themselves to that. There's tutoring services. There's a link to testing center. We're not using this throughout the semester, but if you're using it in other classes, there's a link to it. There's accessibility disability services. If this applies in your case, you get in touch with these people. Then they get in touch with me. We do the accommodations, but you always want to contact them first. Go through them. There's Title IX services. There's library information. There's counseling services, and many, many more with the school. These are just the ones that the school always likes to have in an online class, so you know about them. All right, we've done at this point. What if I want to make these tabs go away? Well, just click Table of Contents. See, they close down. And then say, I want to reset it all. Okay, Overview. There. Now, I'm back to everything's nice and tidy. So, how do I get to my lecture material, though, again? So, let's go back to Course Home. Let's go through the process. So, I'm on the course home page. I want to know where my week 1 lecture material is. Click Content. Look to the left side of the screen. You don't really have to care what's in the right side or the middle. You look to the left side, click Course Contents. This is going to expand. And then give D2L. This lets you know there's a lot of stuff in Course Contents. It takes D2L a little while to find itself. So we're still looking at the left side of the screen. We have Course Contents. It's highlighted. And sure enough, in the middle of the screen, there's Course Contents. We know that we've opened the folder. See? It's right there. But now let's look. Just look to the left side. Woo, look at these tabs. It goes all the way down through week 15. There's also a tab for midterm exam. There is a tab all the way down here under week 15. There's a tab for the final exam. So see why I mentioned it. You may want to collapse these tabs at some point in time. But now let's say we went in, we clicked Content, we've clicked Course Contents, it's expanded. Now, how do I find my week 1 lecture material? It's right there. Just click the week 1 tab. And then what happens is week 1 appears in the middle of the screen. So all that you have to do to get to the lecture material, no matter where you are in this course, if you're over in assignments, you're in Course Home, all you ever have to do is click Content, look to the left side of the screen, scroll down, click Course Contents, and then whatever. If it's week 1, week 2, 3, doesn't matter. Just whatever you're looking for, click the tab, and then you will see the week 1 or week 2, whatever you clicked on, and the dates. And then you scroll down and you'll see that the lecture material, the video is normally right at the top. It's not always at the top, but you just look for the stuff with SE, and that's everything related to lecture material. You know, there's a video, there's a PDF document, here's another PDF document. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier in this video. I am re-uploading all of these lecture videos because they clean the servers. Now all of us, all the teachers have to re-upload these things. And so if your initial lecture video, if you click on it and you get a 404 error, like file not found, something of that sort, send me an email. Let me know, because it's not that I won't have tried to upload the video and link it, but the link may have failed. It's just things, it happens whenever we have to do this server clean out, re-upload videos. But it should work. You click on it and you go and you watch the video. And that's the lecture video. There'll be a handout that's used in the video. You have that handout here. There'll also be other things sometimes referred to in the video. If so, it's marked with SE. Once you've done that for this week, this is what you need is these in order to do the discussion, which there's that discussion. You can click on it here and complete it here just as well as you could have going under the discussions tab. There's the same thing, moral must-haves, can't stands. It says our approach to ethics. You want to look through that before doing it. Well, there's our approach to ethics. There's the handout. So you have what you need to do the discussion right above it. And then under the discussion, scroll down, there'll be a quiz. And this quiz is going to be over the material and the lecture material this first week. You don't have to have the textbook. You got everything you need inside this week 1 folder to do the assignments. And then there's some voluntary stuff that you can check that out if you want to. And there's always a voluntary section. But either way, so how do we do this? Let's go through it one more time because it matters to know how to do this. And this is your first time, it can be very confusing to some people. So you're at the course homepage. You need your stuff for this week. Go content. Look to the left side of the screen. We scroll down. We go to course contents. Give D2L time to find itself. And that's whirling. Then you go to week 1. And there's week 1. There's everything you need to do the assignments you need to read and watch and do this week. It's all right here. Now, what if you want to do week 2? You just click the next tab, week 2. Same pattern. And you can notice that there is a pattern that happens in all of these folders. Your lecture stuff is here. You can see it. It's marked with SE. There's also these extra readings. Like I said, there's supplemental stuff that shows up during some of these weeks. You want to check it all out. Then they'll have the discussion. Then you have the quiz. And then you have voluntary stuff. That's at the very bottom. That's all there is to it. And you go through every week. So in principle, you can just go to content and read and watch the stuff and do the discussions, the quizzes. You never have to leave content. And you can do everything you need to do in the class, except uploading that ID verification through Dropbox. But all the rest of everything can be done with content. That you don't have to ever use the assignments, discussions, quizzes. You don't have to do that and go and access it that way. You can just do it through any one of these folders in content. There's your lecture material, the extra readings. But if you were ready to take your discussion inside this, you just click the link. Text box will open. You start a new thread. All the stuff. You can do all those things inside content. And that works for every week. But now, what happens on week 3? We've looked at weeks 1 and 2. You don't need the textbook for those. In week 3, though, let's check that. There's when textbook readings start to appear. You see, I've just opened the folder over here on the left-hand side for week 3. See, I just opened the week 3 tab. I've clicked on it. And then there's the week 3 folder. It's open, and there's the textbook readings. How do you find these? You just look in the table of contents in the textbook, find the author, the article title, whatever page numbers are associated with that. That's what you read. You read that, and then you still have the lecture videos. They come in parts sometimes, part 1, 2, 3. Then there's an outline, a handout that goes along with it. There's discussion, and then quiz. It's there too, and the voluntary stuff. Same pattern, just textbook materials added to things. So I'm going to collapse this stuff. See, I went back to all 3. Instead of having 15 to 17 tabs stretching out all the way to the bottom of the screen, I've closed course contents, but if you want them to open again, you just click on it. And they'll all open again. And it'll show up. But you always want to click on the week. Like if you want to do week 1, click on week 1. If you want to do week 2, click on week 2. And during the dates and times as needed. But then it's just kind of good practice. You close the tabs, go back to overview. Now everything's clear again. It's all concise, easy to find what you want. But now we go back to course home. This video is almost over. We're almost done. The last thing that we need to consider is this document right here in News, the syllabus. What is this? Well, syllabus. We click on it. This document opens. What it does is it's the school, the name of the class, the semester we're in, it's full start, meaning it's full 15 weeks. My name, my email, office hours. Yes, we need to say something about that. The school requires that I post office hours. I picked Wednesdays 1 to 4. If you need me on Wednesdays 1 to 4, I can be available. Just send me an email. If we need, and what we can do is if I can't answer your question in email, we can set up a time, schedule time, we'll talk on the phone. I'll ask you for a phone number, times that work for you. I'll call during that time. We'll talk about it. We'll work through whatever, answer any questions. But it all begins with email. That's how office hours work. And the idea of Wednesdays 1 to 4, will I be sitting there at the computer from 1 to 4 waiting on someone to see if they email me? Not necessarily. If someone says they need to talk during this time, I can absolutely be available, and I will be. But whenever you just need to ask questions or whatever, just send me an email. We'll go from there. I do not have an on-campus office. I am off campus this semester taking care of family. And so the idea is email and on the phone is the way we will handle office hours. So just send me an email. I'll try to answer your questions through email. If it seems like it'd be more efficient just to talk through it on the phone, I will ask for a phone number and some times that work for you. I'll call at the time that works for you. And then we'll talk about it. We'll, deal with whatever. So the idea is office hours are really whenever you need them to be. Just send me an email. It doesn't matter if it's Monday, Tuesday, Saturday. Now, if you send it to me at like Thursday at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, it may take me until the next day to get back with you, but I will get back with you. And if we need to schedule a phone conversation, we will. So office hours are whenever you need them to be. I'll work around your schedule to the best of my ability. Then there's required text. There's the full bibliographic information. With the textbook, there's course rationale. There's the description. You can read that. There's prerequisites. Just look through these things. If you don't recognize any of these things, you don't know if you've done them or not, or at least I think you just do 2, in a bundle of them. And there may be some here that are not listed that you are familiar with. If you're unsure if you meet these prerequisites, just contact your academic advisor, whoever helped you sign up for classes initially, and they'll check. If they need to get in touch with me, they will. We'll work it out. It's no problem. Also, if this is your very first online class, that the college typically wants people to do this distance learning orientation video. It's oftentimes about taking that D2L virtual tour, things like that. This can be very helpful. So if you have not done this, especially if the school requires that you do it, you want to look into this and see, because it can be extremely helpful. And if it's a requirement with the college, you want to do it and not have it come back on you later that, oh, you did everything but that. And so now you got to go back and do that. Yeah, it's easy just to get these kind of things done when they show up. But you contact your academic advisor and they'll let you know if you need to do this orientation stuff. The next thing, additional requirements. Here's the student code of conduct, rights, responsibilities. That's just the rules, the policies that govern all of the campus stuff unique to the college. It's worth knowing about that. That applies to all classes. Technical requirements. This is a 100% online course. You never have to go to campus to do any of the assignments, anything. But that does mean that you will need reliable access to a computer as well as internet connection throughout the semester. This attention, I'm definitely here to enhance your educational experience. The learning outcomes, what are these? These are just a few of the things that you put your effort in. I put mine in at the end of the semester. This is just a few of the things that you'll be familiar with. You'll be familiar with many more. One of the main things, the skill set that you will develop more as you go through this semester, that's transferable to any other career path you may be taking or in life thing, just trying to find a job, whatever. One thing, the skill that you develop and get significantly more familiar with is with argumentation. How to know what, to ask a question, know when an answer's been provided to it, know that that answer needs reasons, be able to answer questions yourself, provide reasons for those answers. That skill set is invaluable in life. It's one of the really important things about college in general that you develop. And you'll develop it more in here. If you put your effort in, I put mine in, you will be better at dealing with argumentation, which is throughout all kinds of domains of life, but also all this other cool stuff. So, but this is what happens at the end of the semester, once we've all put our work in. The grading system, standard 9, 10-point scale. Here's how your grades broken up, how your grades determined. You have 15 weeks. 2 points, 2 final grade points. You can get that a week. When you do a discussion, you make your initial post, peer replies. You do that successfully. What is your grade? It's 2. You got a +2 to your grade. You start out the semester with 0 points, and as you complete assignments, you're accumulating points up to the last week, the final exam. And so if you did nothing but discussions all semester and you didn't do any quizzes, exams, you would end up with a 30 in the class. Or if you didn't do discussions, but you did all the quizzes and exams, you would end up with, whatever this is, 42 and 28. And that's what your grade would be. And then if you did 100% perfect on all those, but just completely ignored discussions, you'd get the total points right there. So the idea is throughout the semester, you try to do the best you can on all these things, and these points add up. And then with extra credit, if you do all 3, you get up to 8 final grade points. That means if you have a 62 out of doing all this, you got a 62, but you did the 3 extra credits, that turns into a 70. So this extra credit can move your grade from a whole letter, like from a C to a B, from a B to an A, from a D to a C, from an F to a D. So it's worth thinking about that extra credit. It's like sometimes, we don't always get every point and get everything accurate. It's nice to have these in the hopper, but it's not necessary. These are voluntary. All of these points, if you do all those, they'll add up to 100. If you do them successfully. Now, discussions, we've already talked through this. I won't go through it again. The main thing is you do an initial post to discussion by the middle of the week. That's your answer to the questions, your reasons. Then you read what other people have posted and make a reply with helpful feedback to at least 2 people. And it describes what's needed to get credit for this stuff. So you want to read through that. As I've said, there's not a set number of sentences or paragraphs to do this successfully. You just write as much as you need to answer the questions, provide reasons, provide feedback. A little or a lot, long as you've just met what the question's asking for or is described here, you're fine. Finally, participating in weekly discussions is a crucial part of the class. I read everything posted, and I do interact with people in discussions periodically. And if I reply to somebody's post, check out my reply. There'll always be something relevant to everybody in the class. Even if I've not replied to your post, I'm certainly will have read your post. And that I will, and I provide feedback to a few few posts basically every week. But this is the fun part, is the discussions and interacting with people. The weekly quizzes, like I said, is multiple choice true false. You have 10 questions, multiple choice true false questions every week. You have 30 minutes. Once you say you're ready to take the quiz, you click on it and you agree to take it. You got 30 minutes to complete it. That means that if you log out, like say you click on a quiz and then you 5 minutes in and you say, oh, I'm going to go do something else, and you log out and you come back 3 hours later, well, that quiz is going to already be locked down. The only thing that D2L is going to let you do is just submit wherever you stopped. So what you want to do when you get ready to take this quiz, set the time aside for each weekly quiz is 30 minutes, so you can just do it, answer 10 questions. You go in, get it done, and you're done. You're finished. There's only 1 week. Week 7. There's no quiz. That's during the midterm week. The midterm exam is just a bigger quiz that stretches over weeks 1 through 7. Material, multiple choice true false, 42 questions rather than the normal 10 for weekly quizzes, but you have an hour and a half to complete it. And it tells you what part up to the semester you want to read. Final exams, same thing. It just goes from weeks 8 through 15. You have an hour and a half to complete it. Now, these important things. We've already discussed. It's an entirely online course. Okay, taking quizzes and exams or even participating on discussions. It is best to do those things from a laptop or a desktop rather than a cell phone. The reason for that is cellular communication. There are certain delays built into it. It all seems instantaneous to us most times because it's working in milliseconds, nanoseconds, picoseconds. I mean, computers are operating so fast with data. But there are delays. There's interruptions. There's things that happen in cell transmission with the internet that don't normally happen if you're plugged into Ethernet or Wi-Fi with a normal laptop with a full-blown operating system. There is a difference. And what happens when you use a cell phone, sometimes the D2L quiz and exam software loses the connection and you won't be able to advance to the next page. That can be very distracting and confusing. And it's a problem you can entirely avoid if you just take the quizzes and exams from a physical laptop or desktop. And you do that, it just will avoid any potential difficulties with the D2L examination software. Some people will invariably try to do it with a cell phone sometimes. Sometimes you'll get away with it. Sometimes D2L will say no. And I don't control when that happens. So it's just, if you want to avoid all confusion, is just do your quizzes and exams from a physical desktop, laptop, computer. The timers, I've already mentioned this. Whenever you agree to do a quiz or an exam, the timer switches on. It does not stop just because you log out or go to another page. So you always want to just, once you agree to do the thing, set the time aside, do it, and then be done before the time expires. Rather than trying to go in and out, flip between screens, is you're just going to run out of time. And then it locks down and all you're able to do is turn it in wherever you were. Extra credit, we've talked about that. Now, policies. Makeup policy. Missed quizzes, exams, the midterm exam, yes, they can be made up. You provide me with an acceptable documented reason, they can be made up. Discussion posts are much more difficult to make up, but if you miss a discussion, send me an email. We'll go from there. But the quizzes, the exam, midterm exam, no worries. The final exam, though, and it's written here in the syllabus, the due date of the final exam, when people complete the final exam, I have like just 12, 24 hours most times to get all the grades together amongst many classes. There's just not enough time to make up a final exam. For any of these quizzes or exams, you have 7 days to do them. So the idea is to just get it done within that period of time. I mean, I'd rather open a final exam earlier than you miss taking it entirely in the end, because if you miss it in the end, there's not enough time. So you don't want to miss the final exam, whatever you do. But quizzes, exams, other things that may come up, just let me know. We go from there. Even discussions, let me know. Disruptive, disrespectful behavior. This is described here. The key thing is if you're replying to people in the discussion post or any kind of thing in the class, just be respectful to them. There's no reason, even if you read their post and their answers and you're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever read. You may be right. It may be the stupidest thing anybody ever said on the whole planet. It could happen. But you don't have to say it that way to somebody. It's not, you can communicate it as simple as, I disagree with whatever this sentence is that you think was stupid. Just tell the person, or just don't reply to theirs. Pick somebody else to reply to. But if you do want to reply to that person, we'll just say, I disagree, and here's the reasons. And just provide the reasons. Think about it. Why do you think it's one of these things? And then just articulate that to the person in a way that would be beneficial to them. Because think that could be you one day, and you would sure be helpful for someone to say, hey, I disagree with you. Here's my reasons, rather than come at you this way. Because this really, me personally, I have no problem. I'm in philosophy stuff. So we don't get bothered by this stuff. Sometimes in conferences, it gets really kind of, you wouldn't think so in a philosophy conference, but it can get pretty nasty sometimes. When people can get quite mad with each other. But the reality is this doesn't bother me, but it is distracting inside a classroom. That's the idea of the disruptive behavior. That's what we can't do in an academic professional setting, because everybody's here to learn. No one's expected to already have all the answers, know how to do everything in this class, and already have thought everything out ahead of time. I mean, when you launch that initial discussion post, you're really just taking a shot in the dark and see how the people respond to it. That's the way the real world works. But it doesn't have to be this rough part of the real world. So the idea is just respond to people the way you would want to be responded to, that you would find helpful, and you'll be fine. And if you're ever unsure about this, you can always let me know. I'll look at your post before you make it. But most people know. I mean, normally most people do, that they're about to say something that may not go too well. And so do you want to kick the hornet's nest or not? And so if this happens, the first time, it's like a warning. But if it happens, depending on the severity, what is the level of disruption caused? I mean, you can be removed from the entire class for this stuff, because it's just people pay to be able to learn, not to be entangled or embroiled in that kind of stuff. Academic misconduct, just like disruptive, disrespectful things, just don't do it. Plagiarism, cheating. What is plagiarism? Somebody else wrote something, said something, created something, and you take it, you pull it over, you turn it in with your name on it and say, this is mine, when it's actually not. It's essentially stealing. And so this is like big no-no in academia. And people sometimes do it, and they may get away with it a long time, but it's in a class like this is 101, 110, just do your own work. It's easier to just do your own work than trying to find somebody else that said something that seems like it would answer the question. It's like by the time you've done all that, you could have just written your 2 or 3 sentences in discussion and been done. In terms of cheating, just don't do it. You stand just as good a chance as anybody else is answering questions correctly. I can assure you, at this level of classes, you're probably totally fine. You don't need to do those things. And you can always ask me questions. If you're unsure about material, just get in touch with me. I'll help you. That's what I'm here for. Now, what happens if you're caught doing this? If it's substantiated, and this counts too, like using artificial intelligence stuff. This is pretty obvious when people are doing this, and that is not your work. So that's also, you don't want to do this in a class. But as soon as it's substantiated, you're definitely going to get a 0 on the assignment, so it's a waste of time. And then you can get a failing grade for the course depending on the severity. You can be removed from the whole class and the whole school depending on how severe this is. And this stuff goes in your permanent academic record. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. No, I mean it's not at this stage in the game. It's never worth it, really. Just it's hard to learn. It's difficult, but once you know something, you know it. You go on, and it gets easier the further you go and the more you learn. So that being said, attendance. How does attendance work? Technically, you're attending 3 times each week. You make your initial post, and you make 2 peer replies with discussions, and you complete a quiz. Out of all that, there's 3 attendings happening. Does that mean you had to log in 3 times during the week? No. You could, in principle, log in 1 time, say on Wednesday, like Wednesday at 3 o'clock. You do your discussion post, you read other people's posts, you reply to 2 peers, you're ready to go and say, hey, I'll take the quiz. You take the quiz, you do it. By 5 o'clock Wednesday, you're done. You've done all you needed to do for attendance, and you've completed everything associated with a week all in one go. That's fine. The only thing I would encourage you to do is, even if you've done everything by, say, Wednesday or Thursday, look back in the class, log back in, look at the discussions again, read any new posts that are made by the end of the week, because someone may have replied to one of your posts, and it'd be interesting. You see their feedback. May be very helpful to you. So typically logging in about at minimum 2 times in a week, because you need to log in around the middle of the week to at least make an initial post to discussion. And then, but you could do all the other things. If other people have already posted, you could pick 2, reply to them. And if you already are ready to take the quiz, you could take the quiz. You can be done. But just check back in around the end of the week, see if people have replied to your post or your replies, and then reply to them. That's the interesting part, where you're able to interact with each other. But you don't have to log in 3 times to be said to have attended 3 times. Now, in terms of attendance policy, this is a school's policy. It's tied up with federal law too, and state law. See Code of Federal Regulations. The minimum required amount by the college is you have to have attended 80%. What does that mean? Well, you miss no more than 3 weeks worth of discussions, quizzes. If you miss that many, more than that, you miss 4 weeks, I have to withdraw you from the class. That's not my policy, but that's the way the school's policy works, and that's tied up with the way financial aid and everything that the schools use to operate works. So that's the reason for this. It's not necessarily my thing, but it's what we do. It's what has to be done with the way the school operates. So the idea is you just don't want to miss over 3 weeks. If you do, I have to withdraw you. I mean, I have no choice, unless you make the stuff up, then you've attended. So it's better to let me know if you have something going on or that's come up. Let me know, and we can work around things, to try to help you before just missing all these weeks and then I have to withdraw you. The next thing is, in terms of attendance verification, you do that by the end of this week, which is sending me an email and doing the discussion, the quiz, and this identity verification. That's due by the end of this week as well. Now, technical issues, I've already flagged this. I'm going to say it a 3rd time. I'm re-uploading these lecture videos. It's possible you may find another link or so in the class throughout the semester that you click on it and it comes up with a file not found or something like that. If that happens, just send me an email. I will fix it. That's all there is to it. Don't worry about it. If it's at a time where you're afraid you're not going to get a discussion like initial posting on time, something like that, let me know. It's fine. We'll fix it. We'll get it done. So technical issues won't be an issue. They can all be resolved. Just send me an email. That's where it starts. Student resources. This is just the full information, more information with phone numbers. That's the same as in that student resources over in the course information module. But you can look through all this stuff. But that we have reached the end of this video. Let's go back to the course homepage. But I do look forward to working with everyone this semester. I will interact with discussions, sometimes more, sometimes less as we go throughout the semester. But I look forward to it. And until then.